Australia is famous for being the continent which provided a refuge for the marsupials, mammals which give birth to their young and then carry them in a pouch for some time afterwards as they grow. There were never any native felines, including large cats like lions, tigers, and pumas. Marsupials, which filled similar ecological niches to large carnivores, evolved, but are now extinct, or presumed extinct. From time to time, mystery animals are spotted in the bush, which are given the designation tiger, lion, or phantom big cat. Some of these turn out to be large feral domestic cats, dogs, or other known beasts, seen under unfavourable conditions of darkness or obfuscation. Some may be surviving thylacines, or Tasmanian wolf, officially said to have become extinct in 1936, but for which some evidence suggests they may still exist. It's virtually certain at least a couple of animals were still alive until the 1950s. The Thylaka Leo, or marsupial lion, is known only from fossils, believed to have died out about 30,000 years ago. It was a 250-pound predator which resembled a lioness and had the strongest bite of any mammal known, and hooked claws like cats. Although reports have been made which claim the animal still lives in remote parts of Australia, it is unlikely such an apex predator would remain hidden so completely. The other explanation for tigers and their ilk being found in Australia is that they are escapees from circuses, zoos, and army bases where they were kept as mascots. How does the history of such escapes compare reality with the explanation? Many exotic animals were imported into Australia in the 19th century with little hindrance by customs officials until the 1870s, when concerns over stock diseases in imported herds caused the earliest animal quarantines to go into effect. There is a report of a fox terrier being hunted down and placed in quarantine in 1885 by vigilant officials. If they went to that effort over a small dog, it is unlikely large wild animals would be treated dismissively. Some big cats were known to be in menageries and zoological gardens as exhibits. A black tiger was imported to Adelaide from Malaysia in May 1849. A Mr. Creech, landlord at the Union Inn in Weymouth Street, purchased the cat and charged locals sixpence to come and see it. In February 1850 it killed a duck belonging to Mr. Herring, the former landlord of the inn, which had flown into the cage. As Mr. Herring was feuding with Creech, he took him to court for stealing the duck, but on hearing the facts the magistrate threw the case out at once. No further mention is made of the black tiger thereafter. However, Creech indicated he was going to sell his exhibit, either in Sydney or London. A menagerie at Cremorne Gardens, Melbourne, advised in 1859 that their lion cubs had all died, while in 1862 a lion cub was on display in Watson's Bay, Sydney, for sixpence, advertised as the only lion cub in the Australian colonies. In 1869, Fernandez's Royal Menagerie operated in Castlereagh Street, Sydney, with amongst its animals a lion, lioness, and 2 lion cubs, as well as a leopard. Reports from zoological gardens in the 19th century reflect a high infant mortality among lion cubs, an excited interest in the animals by the public willing to pay to see them. There is no evidence that keeping such animals as pets was anything other than rare to non-existent. Several unverified stories of escapes exist from the 19th century. The tiger is alleged to have been on the loose in the Upper Yarra of Victoria around June of 1885, and another was seen prior to 1894 in the Mount Gambier area of South Australia, but these have little more than rumours to substantiate them. At Bulwarra, New South Wales in 1884, an escaped lion was tracked down and found to be a greyhound wearing a rug. And at Chiltern the next year, alarming reports emanated regarding a tiger eating livestock and even some of the local children. The only creature investigators could locate was a donkey. In the 20th century, escapes become much better documented, and in reviewing them it becomes apparent that big cats which did get loose didn't remain at large for very long. It is also evident that such escapes were big news and reported in a multitude of newspapers, and often well remembered for years after, although details became distorted over time. Of 14 verified circus escapes between 1902 and 1953, involving 23 lions, 2 tigers, 2 wolves, a mandrill, and an elephant, all were recaptured or killed within a short time. The first of these occurred at Broken Hill in 1902. A lion performing at Fitzgerald's Circus pushed its way under an opening underneath the cage to escape. It killed one of the circus goats before the keeper lured it back to its cage with a hunk of raw meat. Armed police stood by in case the ruse did not work. The whole uproar was over within half an hour, and the lion had never strayed far from the circus. A lion and a lioness escaped at Bateman's Bay, New South Wales, on the 25th of January 1907. There were 3 lions in a cage which were not happy about being made to perform that night at Worth's Circus. As the lion tamer was retreating, 2 of the big cats pushed their way out through the door. One stayed in the circus tent and eyed off the small crowd of about 50 spectators, but was roped and returned to the cage before it could do anything. The lioness ran to the exit, just as a small girl was doing the same. Remarkably, the lion ignored the child and another man who almost ran into it, but mauled 3 of the circus horses tethered outside. The whole town went into a panic and armed men sought the animal. An hour and a half after it escaped, it was seen near a shop and fired at, but ran off. It was next seen at the back of the circus, apparently trying to find its way home, but the same incompetent circus staff who had let it out, instead of allowing the cat to find its way back, shot at it and frightened it away. The search was postponed until daylight. The lion was found about 9 o'clock in a paddock, attacking a cow, and was shot dead. Worth Circus was again the offender at Murrurundi in the New South Wales Hunter Valley in July 1910. A lion, 2 lionesses and 2 Russian wolves got free. Again, 2 circus horses were attacked, suggesting the lions may not have been being adequately fed. The wolves were quickly recaptured within the tent, but the lions split up and went in different directions. One hid in a fowl house and was enticed back into a cage from there. Another was recaptured near the railway, and the third in a backyard, with none of the animals being harmed, although locals had armed themselves with all types of weapons to defend themselves. Like in Bateman's Bay, the lions ran past humans, ignoring them. Not a circus, but an illusionist named Thylaka managed to lose a lion in the centre of Melbourne in February 1911. The lion had been loaned from the Melbourne Zoo, where it was treated like a pet, having previously been a circus animal. Thylaka was performing at the Opera House when the lion cleverly tapped open a bolt holding its cage door shut and wandered out. The lion exited via the stage door into Rainbow Alley and walked rather uncertainly along Collins Street, causing one woman to faint and other people to scatter, although it never made a move to attack anyone. Pearson, one of the assistants in the magic act, followed and used a long fork to touch the lion's whiskers to attempt to direct it through an open doorway at a building near the corner of Swanston Street. Coincidentally, the headquarters of the Society for the Protection of Animals was in the same building. Pearson shut the door and called the fire brigade, who arrived with a large net. A huge crowd gathered and watched as a cage from the zoo was pushed up to the door with the net above. The lion quietly entered the cage, and his magic show career came to an end. Worth's was again careless in September 1917 at Campbelltown, New South Wales. 2 lions got loose early in the morning and wandered away into the town for 6 or 7 hours. One was seen by a homeowner resting under his pine tree and recaptured, while the other was located in the Presbyterian Cemetery and safely returned to the circus. A claim that a lion got loose and was never recaptured in Taree around 1924 has no known evidence to support it, but in 1925 in Mitchell, Queensland, 2 lions broke out of a cage through the wooden end panel and roamed about the railway station for half an hour before being returned to captivity by their keeper. Again, the only casualty was a pony that was mauled. In February 1926, a lion from Perry Brothers Circus at Cootamundra escaped when being moved from a van to the circus tent, and again attacked 2 horses and chased some cows, before being chased by a posse himself. The lion, named Leo, was shot by a local banker before circus staff got him back into his cage. Despite the bullet wound, the lion seemed okay. Lions made escapes twice in Melbourne in 1931. The first was at Springvale on the 19th of October. A lion got free and wandered out of the circus tent and into the night. A terrier gave away its location, crouched under a hedge, and it was kept under observation by its keeper until morning, when it rather meekly wandered back into captivity in a shed. On the Melbourne to Mansfield Road on the 28th of November 1931, Perry Brothers' caravan was bumping along the rough track when the door to the lion cage flew open. Peter and Queenie, the lions, either fell or jumped out and stood bemused in the road before running after the caravan for nearly a mile, with their empty cage just a few yards in front of them. By the time another motorist saw them and flagged the truck down, they had been distracted by some cattle in a field and sat eyeing the prime beef on the other side of the fence. Police had been alerted and locals recruited to help round up the lions using their cars. Peter obligingly leapt back into the cage at once, but Queenie spent 3 hours playing dodge with the hunters. At one point she was lassoed, but bit through the rope and trotted off. Finally a piece of meat was dangled over a cage, and although wary, she eventually succumbed to the temptation and was safely secured. Perhaps the first time the circus escape theory was used to explain a mystery was at Goulburn in 1933, when a creature referred to as the hardened lion was spotted several times. It was said that it was a lion that escaped from a circus some weeks before. There is no known record of such an escape in 1932 or 1933, however. Another lion escaped from Soul Brothers in Mackay, Queensland in June 1939, from the cage during a performance, to the cheers of the audience who thought it was part of the act. It only wandered as far as the railway line before recapture. At Inverell in 1942, a trailer overturned while being driven during the night. 2 tigers and a mandrill were released by the accident. Sadly for the monkey, one of the tigers killed it and was eating it when confronted by police, who shot the tiger dead. The other tiger had wandered away. Hearing it roaring, Mrs. Dean looked out and saw the big cat approaching the veranda where her 8-year-old daughter and 2 sons aged 10 and 3 were sleeping. Quickly she dragged them inside and slammed the door. The tiger found the fowl house and began to make a meal of the chickens. That tiger ran into bush before turning and running back to its cage, where sadly the waiting police shot and killed it as well. Raja was the name of a lion which escaped at Bondi from Bullen's Circus by climbing over the top of a cage during a performance. Like the other escapees, he ignored the audience as he passed by a few feet away from them, even though he was described as having a savage temperament. He was lassoed and captured within 10 minutes. At Shepparton, Victoria, on the 11th of October 1952, a lion was rubbing itself against the bars of its cage when the pressure popped the door open, and it roamed about at the agricultural show, where 10,000 people were present. The lion never threatened anyone, and went to another lion's cage and lay down next to the other animal. When keepers tried to cage it, however, it leapt right over the head of the keeper. A barricade of cages surrounded it, and it was induced to enter its own cage, again with whip cracks and other noises. On the 25th of May 1953, Worth's Circus was using an elephant to pull a cage containing 5 lions, when a shunting train hit, freeing the lions. 2 were recaptured immediately, but the other 3 ran off and spent the night outdoors. At midnight, an Indigenous woman, Mrs. Mercy, who was camped on the beach in a tent, heard a noise and thought it was her husband returning home. She spoke and opened the flap to find the largest of the lions staring at her. She backed inside and ripped the back wall out of the tent and fled. Mrs. Wisley went to feed her chickens in the morning and found only 4 of the 32 birds there. Hearing a noise, she looked aside and saw a lion licking his paws. She screamed and ran inside, and the lion, named Pasha, went and slept on the doorstep before he loped off to join his friends. A reporter who asked a witness if the lion which ate the chickens had blood and feathers around its mouth was told, "I didn't go close enough to see." All 3 were located on the beach and recaptured by a large party of hunters who caged them one by one. The elephant, Rill, who had been injured in the accident, ran away in fright and was also found near the beach the next day. Is it reasonable to suggest mystery big cats are circus escapees? From the accounts, several inferences can be drawn. Any circus escape was big news. there should be a record of an escape if it occurred. Most animals were at liberty for only a short while, no longer than a day and usually less than a few hours. Most of the animals stayed near the circus, and some returned or attempted to return to their cages by themselves. The escaped animals were quickly noticed by locals and readily tracked down and captured. Based on these observations, the circus escape theory seems lacking as an explanation for mystery cats. Animals kept as pets, as mascots, or in private zoos, and freed into the bush would not be chronicled, but a pet would, like the circus animals, likely be comfortable around people and not difficult to notice and find. The number of large carnivorous cats kept in this manner in Australia can never have been numerous. Yet sightings of creatures described as lions, black panthers, pumas, and tigers have all been reported, so there must be at least several instances of this dumping of pets without anybody noticing them, and the animals successfully transitioning to a feral lifestyle and breeding for this to be the solution. While the escapee theory may explain some of these sightings, it is doubtful it explains all or even most. But still, the mystery cats slink through the Australian bush and into the dark corners of history.